All right, everyone get ready. Today we're diving deep into something that's like the backbone of language.
Hmm.
It's something we use every single day, but we don't really give it much thought. Parts of speech.
Hmm. That's interesting. Most people think parts of speech are really simple. A noun is a thing, and a verb is an action, and an adjective is describing something.
Right, right.
But, once you really start to look closely, you realize there's all this hidden complexity. It's actually a lot more fascinating than it seems at first glance.
Okay, I'm already hooked.
Yeah.
I've always struggled with adverbs. They just seem to pop up everywhere. And I don't know, what's the trick? What's the secret to actually understanding adverbs?
Okay, well, the key thing to remember with adverbs is that they don't just describe verbs.
Okay.
They can actually describe adjectives and even other adverbs and even entire sentences. So, for instance, you could have a sentence like, unfortunately, they missed the train. And that word unfortunately at the beginning, that's an adverb. But it's not just describing the missing of the train. It's adding this whole layer of regret or disappointment to the entire situation.
That's a great example. I can totally see that. It's like adverbs. They can kind of shift the whole tone or emphasis of a sentence without you even realizing it.
Exactly.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. Could you walk us through all of the different parts of speech, starting with the basics?
Yeah, sure. So I guess we can start with nouns, which are basically, words that we use to name things.
Mhm.
So like coffee, city, idea, or even something abstract like happiness.
Right. Like things.
And then we have verbs, which are, action words. So like explore, imagine, even just exist.
Okay, so nouns are like the what, and verbs are the doing.
Got it. So far, so good. What's next?
Okay, well, then we have adjectives, which are, descriptive words that we use to add more, I don't know, flavor to our nouns.
Yeah.
So like a steaming cup of coffee, a bustling city. Adjectives really help to paint a picture in our minds.
Hmm.
Totally. Okay, so we've got nouns, verbs, adjectives. So far, we're in familiar territory. What about pronouns? Aren't those the words that kind of stand in for nouns?
Yeah, exactly. They're kind of like shortcuts.
Right. Yeah.
They help us to avoid repetition and keep our sentences flowing smoothly. So instead of saying Sarah went to the store because Sarah needed milk, we can say Sarah went to the store because she needed milk.
Yeah, that's much better. I always trip up on those. Okay, so pronouns, express lane of grammar. What about prepositions? I've always found prepositions kind of tricky. They're kind of like, I don't know, bridges that connect different parts of a sentence.
Yeah, that's actually a really good analogy. So yeah, they show the relationship between a noun or a pronoun and another word in the sentence.
Yep.
So, think of words like on, in, at, towards, from. So on the table, in the city, towards the solution.
So like location or direction.
Well, not always. They can actually indicate more, I don't know, abstract relationships as well.
Mhm.
So, think about the verb depend on. That on, there is a preposition.
Oh.
It's connecting the verb to the object of the verb. Our success depends on teamwork. So, that preposition is really important to get the meaning across.
Uh-huh. So prepositions can be pretty versatile.
Yeah.
Okay, now what about conjunctions? Aren't those kind of like connectors too, like the glue that holds the sentence together?
Yeah, that's right. They join words, phrases, and clauses together, and, but, or, because, although, so many.
Right.
And each of these, brings this different nuance to how we're connecting ideas. So I love coffee, but I can't drink it late at night. That little word but completely changes the meaning of the sentence.
Right. So it's all about creating those connections and contrasts. Okay, we've done nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, pronouns, prepositions, conjunctions. Whew. What about more expressive words, the words that convey strong emotion, like wow or oh no?
Ah, you're talking about interjections.
Uh,
Yeah, those are those outbursts and exclamations that kind of stand alone, hey, ouch, no way. Even just
right.
and
Yeah.
those just add a lot of color and emotion to our communication.
They're like the spice, of language. Okay, so that leaves us with one more part of speech.
Yeah, and this is the one that kind of flies under the radar a lot. It's the determiner.
Okay, I'm not going to lie. Determiner doesn't ring a bell. What do they do?
Okay, so think of determiners as kind of like ushers of language.
Okay.
They come before a noun, they're kind of pointing it out, and they tell us which one we're talking about, or they give us some information about quantity. So the, a, and, this, that, my, your, some, many, few, several, all of those.
Yeah.
They're all determiners, and they kind of clarify our nouns a little bit.
Okay, so in a phrase like a beautiful sunset, that A is like telling us it's one specific sunset, not just any sunset.
Exactly. And in a phrase like many happy memories, that word many is telling us, we're talking about a large quantity of memories.
Wow, I never really thought about that. It's amazing how much work those little words are doing behind the scenes.
I know, right?
They're like the unsung heroes of sentences.
I like that. Unsung heroes.
Mm-hmm.
So are you ready to move beyond the basics a little bit? Because things get really interesting when you realize that a word isn't always just one part of speech.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it can actually change its function depending on how it's used in a sentence.
Okay, so like a word could be a noun in one sentence and then a verb in another sentence.
Exactly.
Oh, my brain hurts a little bit. Can you give me an example?
Okay, so let's take the word light, for example. You can have a sentence like, the sun emits light. In that case, light is a noun, it's a thing.
Right.
But then you could have a sentence like, let's light the candles, and now all of a sudden, light is a verb.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm starting to see how context really matters. So it's like the words around a word can completely change its role.
Yeah, it's kind of like they have all these secret identities, that they can slip into.
I'm starting to look at grammar in a whole new light.
Mm-hmm.
So does this like shape-shifting ability only apply to single words, or can phrases do this too?
Oh, good question. Phrases can totally do it too.
Okay.
Just like words can group together to form phrases, those phrases can then function as like a single unit within a sentence, and they can act as a noun or verb, an adjective, an adverb.
Oh, okay. Can you give me like a concrete example?
Uh-huh.
Because my brain is like a little fried right now.
Yeah, sure. So how about this sentence? She added a pinch of salt to the soup.
Okay.
Let's break that down a little bit.
Okay, so we've got the verb added and then a pinch of salt. Seems like the thing's being added, but it's more than one word.
Right, and that whole phrase, a pinch of salt, is actually functioning as a noun phrase. It's the direct object of the verb added.
So even though salt is a noun by itself, when it's in that phrase, it's just like one piece of a bigger noun puzzle.
Exactly. And what's really cool is that we can analyze that phrase from all these different angles. We can break it down word by word and say a is a determiner, pinch is a noun, of is a preposition.
Yeah.
Or we can look at the whole thing as just one, big cohesive unit that is acting like a noun.
So it's not about finding the one right answer, but about using like our understanding of parts of speech to analyze how language works in different ways.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that, language isn't just the set of rules. It's like a living system.
Right.
And it's full of possibilities. And the more we kind of explore those possibilities, the more skilled we become at, understanding and using the power of language.
This is mind-blowing. Okay, so are you ready to put our listeners' newfound knowledge to the test a little bit?
Yeah, I actually have a challenge for them.
Okay.
So let's take the word amazing. I'm going to give you 3 sentences that use this word, and I want you to think about how it's functioning in each sentence.
Ooh. Okay.
All right.
Hit me with those sentences. I'm all ears.
Okay, so here are your 3 sentences. Sentence 1, amazing. Sentence 2, it's way better than I ever thought it would be amazing. And sentence 3, she was an amazing clinician who came up with many innovative ways to treat patients.
Ooh. Okay, I'm already intrigued. Like, amazing is definitely doing something different in each of those sentences.
Yeah. Well, just, don't overthink it. Just use your instincts and what we've talked about so far.
Okay, all right, let's give it a shot. So that first one, amazing.
Yeah.
It's just standing alone, It's pure expression, like surprise or awe. So I'm going to go with interjection for that one.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a verbal exclamation point.
Yeah.
It's just conveying that burst of emotion.
Right, okay. Now, in the second sentence, it's way better than I ever thought it would be amazing. Okay, so amazing seems like it's describing the it, right? So I'm thinking it's acting as an adjective in this case.
You got it. You're absolutely right. It's adding that extra description, highlighting how incredible the it is.
Okay, and what about that third sentence? She was an amazing clinician who came up with many innovative ways to treat patients. I think I'm going to stick with adjective for this one, too, because amazing is definitely describing the clinician.
Yes. Yep, you nailed it. In both the second and third sentences, amazing is playing the role of an adjective, adding a little bit of descriptive flourish to the nouns that it's modifying.
Right.
But here's something kind of interesting. In sentence 2, amazing comes after the noun, and then in sentence 3, it comes before the noun.
Huh.
So it just goes to show that, English grammar isn't always about these really strict rules. There's some flexibility there, and there's room for, stylistic variation.
That's a really good point. It's like, language allows us to play around with the placement of words to create different effects.
Exactly. It's about understanding, the tools and then using them in a creative way to craft our message.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. We've gone from thinking about parts of speech as these like simple categories to seeing them as like dynamic elements,
Yeah.
right? They can like shift and change depending on the context.
Yeah, yeah. And that's really the key takeaway here. The goal isn't to just memorize a bunch of definitions, but to develop that deeper understanding of how language works so we can actually use it more effectively and appreciate its versatility.
Okay, so for our listeners, who might be feeling inspired right now to dissect every sentence they encounter,
Okay.
what are some of the key things to keep in mind?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, first and foremost, don't get bogged down in trying to memorize a bunch of rules. Approach every sentence like a detective, right? And pay attention to how each word is contributing to the overall meaning.
Yeah, don't lose the forest for the trees.
Exactly, yeah. And secondly, remember that sentences, they're not just these abstract things, right? They're reflections of real life situations.
Yeah.
So try to connect the grammar to the actual meaning. Ask yourself, what actions, objects, and ideas are being conveyed here? And how are the parts of speech working together to create that meaning?
It's like bringing those grammatical concepts
Yeah.
to life,
Yeah.
grounding them in real world understanding.
Exactly, yeah. And then finally, I would say just embrace the fact that there can be multiple ways to analyze a sentence. There's not always going to be one right answer.
Yeah.
What really matters is finding, the perspective that makes sense to you and helps you unlock the meaning of that sentence.
It's like we've been given the keys to the language kingdom, and now we can go explore.
Now that you have those keys, how will you use them?
Right.
What kind of new discoveries await? Maybe you'll start noticing parts of speech everywhere you look, or maybe you'll try writing a sentence that uses all 9 parts of speech.
I'm definitely going to be paying more attention now to the way I'm using language.
Yeah.
This has been such a great deep dive. It feels like I've really unlocked a whole new level of understanding.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that. And just remember, language is this constantly evolving tool. And the more we explore its, intricacies, the more effectively we can communicate, express ourselves and connect with the world around us.
So to our listeners, keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep diving deep into that fascinating world of language.
Yeah.
We'll love to hear your discoveries.
Until next time, happy analyzing.
Oh, I know I will. And I bet our listeners will too.
I hope so. Language is this tool that's available to every single one of us.
Right.
And the more we understand it, the more we can really unlock its potential, right?
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
not just about, being grammatically correct.
Right.
It's about using language confidently and creatively.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like realizing that we're all language explorers in a way.
Yeah.
Constantly learning and evolving the way that we communicate.
I love that. So to all of our listeners out there, keep playing with language, keep pushing those boundaries, and never stop asking those questions, because that's how we make new discoveries, That's how we make language our own.
Absolutely. And remember, we're always here to help guide you on your language journey.
Right.
So if you have any questions or any cool discoveries that you want to share, please don't hesitate to reach out.
And that brings us to the end of another deep dive. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling super energized to go out there and, just pay more attention to the amazing world of words all around us.
I know, me too. It's pretty incredible how much we take it for granted.
Totally. So until next time, keep those brains buzzing, keep those conversations flowing, and we'll catch you on our next deep dive.
See you.
Bye.